works, please. We're back, people. What is up? Hopefully this stream goes more smoothly because last night it just didn't work out. But today, going over some key players that I think the Miami Dolphins really need to step up to have a successful season. These guys are like hugely important for that. And I got a decent amount of names here. I got some other people that I think are honorable mentions. Some of these guys are more, and then there will be some guys that I can talk about that like they need to stay healthy. I think are very important for Miami, but these are guys that I think, regardless of health, really need to step up. And there's a few other things I want to go over. I might just go through that first because there was a lot of arguments on the timeline yesterday on Twitter regarding the Dolphins, and just wanted to analyze some of the stuff, put it to bed because I think there's some misinformation going on. And so I'm going to show this play. You know me, I'm a big Tua fan. This is something I even broke down during the game last year, like the day after that I talked about. This was the play. I mean, it was broken down in a broadcast. You can't really tell. But it was talked about whether this was like a correct throw or not, Tua throwing the back shoulder. And I want to make it clear, like using this as like an example against Tua is poor in my opinion because he played really good throughout this game. But this was a miss. Like, I just want to make this clear. Like, this was like, there's really only two arguments that can be made. Either he missed the throw or he missed the read. Either way, this was a play Tua would like back. There's really not another, like, you can't argue that it was a good throw to make. Like, it's just like, that's objectively wrong. Because this is cover 3. This is not cover 2 where they're bracketing Hill over the top. This guy, Damar Hamlin's playing single high. They're running the double move. Tua hits a pump fake. I think maybe the pump fake threw him off. And you can see after the pump fake, Tua peeks to the middle of the field. He sees he's in the middle of the field. So I think Tua knows that like he has this ball thrown on the sideline. Like Hamlin's not going to make it there. I know people think Hamlin's going to get there. If Tyreek is led and thrown to the ball around here, Tyreek's getting to that spot way before Hamlin is. He's already in full speed. Hamlin's getting out of his break. The ball would be led, but it's thrown behind him. So this was a missed opportunity by Tua. It happens. It was really probably his only negative sort of play throughout the game. It was still a 20-yard completion. It's just one I think that they would like back. But this is cover 3. Once you see in the middle of the field close like that and you got the double move at the bottom and you see that you're actually get up on top of him, you're taking this throw and trying to lead him every single time. Like it's 100% wrong to not make that throw in that situation. But just wanted to show that off real quick. Yeah, Wi-Fi is better, troll. Hopefully, people can get in here. But just wanted to talk about that play real quick because I saw people arguing about it on the timeline for a while. I think I had like both sides mad at me in my response because people were mad that I said it was a bad play. But I mean, also I said it was also a poor example to use against Tua because of the rest of the game. Like he was one of the only reasons they were even in that one. But that is just taking that play as a solo play and analyzing it. It was a missed opportunity. So just had to show that real quick. And then there's some other things I don't think we ever talked about. I don't think I ever showed this play. This was a post. We get to see Tua going through some reads real quick. In the rain, make a throw out to Malik. Malik Washington wearing number 6 now on the sideline, getting the 2 feet in bounds. I am expecting a nice little jump from Malik in year 2. Made a video on him the other day. So shout out Malik. I posted this video on Twitter too. This is a video that just watch Jaylen Waddle and all these. Jaylen Waddle is the best, I think, receiver in the league when it comes to this stuff. Is releasing to the opposite side of the route break. So inside releasing and then breaking to the outside, or outside releasing, break to the inside. Other receivers very rarely attempt this. Like this is such a rare release to have versus press because most players aren't athletic enough to do that. But Waddle does it. Probably attempts it more than anyone, and like he has a very high success rate when he does it. Like every time I've seen him do it, it always ends up being a completion because corners aren't expecting it. It's something that you're not going to take. Like here, outside releasing, break to the inside, like having that ability to be bend and be explosive. Here it is again, getting around him and like bending at this, working back towards the ball. Very like it's such a rare skill, and the Dolphins probably have the 2 receivers in the league that says that. Well, to be fair, Cap for life, I think he was saying his footwork on that play was bad. I think it's fair to analyze a play like on a play-to-play basis. I do think, yeah, his footwork was poor in that play. I've seen him talk about his footwork being good. I think Tua's had inconsistent footwork throughout his career. Sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's not so good. But yeah, you can be positive about players in certain areas and then negative about them in the other areas. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Jaylen Waddle had 15 drops last year. Jaylen Waddle drops 2024. I feel like that number is not right. But who knows? But yeah, definitely learning how to juggle. Let's see. I'm seeing he had 8 drops last year from Fox Sports. So I was gonna say 15 is crazy. No one in the league even has 15. The highest is 13 with Jerry Jeudy. I was gonna say Waddle at 15 with how many he didn't play the whole season. I don't think that's true. But yeah, Waddle, absolute dog. Like I gotta stop the negative Waddle narratives because they're just not true. It's like there's some things, yes, he needs to work with at the catch point, but man, he is such a stud. I also saw like the whole Waddle versus Jarvis Landry thing. I weighed in on this. If you know my take on Jarvis Landry, like I was never as high on him as like everyone else was, even when he was a Dolphin. I always thought like he was kind of overrated, which is, I mean, I don't even know if there's really an argument for it. He's probably the most overrated Dolphin like in the last decade. Like there's no one else that like really got pushed up that much by like every fan. Like, and don't get me wrong, Jarvis was a dog. I love how hard he played, but he was a detriment to be like your wide receiver 1 with how they used him. And you can't blame that all on Jarvis, but it's just the nature of how that was. Nope, I'm looking at 2024 receiving stats, and it's 8 drops. So I think you got to get your numbers checked. But yeah, let's go to We'll just show this play one more time all the way through. Yes, this was a potential missed opportunity. Is it a poor example to use against Tua? Yes, there's other games that would have been much better, in my opinion. Much better plays to use because Tua played pretty much lights out throughout this game. But yes, this is one where like his footwork could have been better. This was if he leads him and makes a good throw, it's a walk-in touchdown. Like that safety's not getting there. Like I can assure you that. And even if you just ignore the safety getting there or not, the read is to throw this. Verse cover 3 with him being middle field close. That safety's middle field close. He's not playing post, or he's playing post. He's not playing split. Like, I don't know how people like, I mean, look at it from this angle where this throw is. If this ball's let out there, how is Damar Hamlin going to get there? Like, there's no shot. I would say Waddle's probably one of the most underrated players on the Dolphins right now. Because Waddle is extremely good and people talk about him like he's average. I think people focus a lot on numbers because, you know, I think one thing is people look only at stats with players and think that tells the whole story. People say, you know, men lie, women lie, but stats don't lie. In my opinion, stats actually can be very misleading because there's so much context missing from them, especially a lot of like the base level stats, like, you know, interceptions, for example. There's games where I've seen games where QBs threw 3 interceptions, right? But if you go back and watch the film, the 3 interceptions maybe weren't even on the QB. And there's other games where like the QB had 0 interceptions, but they had like 3 or 4 interceptions that like 3 or 4 plays that should have been intercepted, but the defensive guys just made poor plays. They dropped an easy pick or something. The QB just got lucky. That's why I think stats are so misleading. Last year, there's so much context, I think, missing with the receivers, you know, with injuries and stuff. Jaylen Wright got the orange jersey the other day. I thought this was an interesting excerpt. This was from Travis Wingfield saying, this was like an interview with McDaniel. He said, when we had exit meetings, I was talking to Jaylen Wright about being able to non-verbally communicate to me his hunger for an increased role. I see better than I hear, and for OTAs, I can see him following through with that. So it seems like Wright's out there working. I actually kind of want to make a film breakdown on Jaylen Wright because I think one area Jaylen Wright kind of struggled with last year is he was new to the outside zone scheme. Like he wasn't running a ton of outside. Like he never ran the outside zone at Tennessee in college. Never. So Fox Sports line at 15 drops last year. Brother, I am on Fox Sports right now, 2024, and Jaylen Waddle has 8 drops. 15. He had 15 game plays, 15 games started, if that's what you're getting 15 from. He had 83 targets, and he had 8 drops. The drops is the last part. But yeah, back to Jaylen Wright. I think opening up and being a little more scheme versatile with Wright. I think allowing to run more gap scheme, inside zone stuff would be a huge help to Jaylen Wright because a lot of his best runs last year, even on outside zone stuff, were him working behind a fullback, which kind of creates a similar feel to working on gap scheme stuff, working off a block of a puller, stuff like that. Also, to continue with Waddle, this is reported by Omar Kelly. It appears the Dolphins have exercised option bonuses already in Jaylen Waddle's contract, giving the wide receiver $30.3 million of the $32.7 million he's guaranteed in 2025 and 2026 in order to lower his cap number the next 2 years. So it seems like they're lowering Waddle's cap numbers the next 2 years, pushing things up with that. So that's interesting. So it seems like basically Waddle's being paid $19.3 million a season through 2027, which is an absolute steal for Waddle, by the way, of it, of a contract. I don't think you can guarantee that. I don't think Waddle last year was the most, time Waddle missed in a season. So I don't know, I feel like 8 drops is a lot. I see a thing on Kyle Carr's spot. Waddle against the top 10 coaches in the league is rated number 1 versus every wide receiver, running back, tight end in the league by a large margin. Oh yeah, I mean Waddle's become super underrated, man. And having Tyreek here, I think, has hurt Waddle actually, because it's just being a wide receiver is just an opportunity game, and that's really limited to his opportunities. Okay, but let's go to key players. So back to the title. So key players the Miami Dolphins need to step up in 2025. I got a list here of guys that I think are hugely important. There are certain positions where you could probably argue anyone. We'll get to the secondary and you could just say anyone stepping up would be better, but I'm going to go into specifics of why I think, a certain player would be better if they stepped up compared to others. So we'll start on the offensive side of the ball. There's actually not too many that I think are key here. I'm going to start with one player specifically, and this is the player I'm probably least worried about on this list with stepping up, because I think he'll do fine enough, but Patrick Paul. I think last year Patrick Paul was clearly not the problem on the offensive line when he had to play. He was a rookie, but he was usually, when he was playing, he was your second or third best offensive line. I think this year there's a world where he could be the offensive lineman you are potentially worried about, but I think if that's the case, you feel a lot better about your O-line. I'm still expecting pretty solid play for Patrick Paul. I think if you watch him, he's got his play strength and anchor, and his athleticism at his size is absolutely ridiculous. The fact that he never gets the hands on first and he's still able to get control, his game versus the Texans is super impressive. Going against those D linemen, I think show the ceiling that Patrick Paul can potentially have. I think the one thing for me is if he can take a big step in the because I think there's the pass pro stuff that I think he can do. There's some inconsistency there, but I think if he can take a big step as a run blocker, specifically just digging people out, creating more consistent movement, and then also his angles at the second level, because he's got the athleticism to make plays at the second level. But if he takes a step there, and I do expect to see a step at Patrick Paul, I think him being the starter from day one is a huge help for him. Just getting more playing time, being more consistent. He doesn't have to switch from left tackle to right tackle, play both spots. He'll be your starting left tackle. That will be huge for him. Having consistent people next to you, having people around you be healthy, he'll have better people next to him. That should help him out a lot. Having James Daniels, stuff like that. But I think about the offensive lineman, Paul is the key because I think tackle and center are more important in the system than the guards. And if you look at the guards from previous years, he like if you look at the guards from previous seasons, they were much worse. So I'm expecting the guards to be boosted no matter what. So that's why I didn't list the guard players. Yes, if they stepped up, that's also helpful. But I think Patrick Paul would be is just a bigger key to that. But out of this list, he's probably the one I'm least worried about because I do think like he's someone that will play decent enough. It's just if he takes a big step, that would be hugely helpful to the offense. But there's still a lot to like to his game. I think it's just maybe the running game stuff. If he can just like consistently be some dominant stuff. Dude. Man. Here, I got you guys right now. You guys want me to put this to bed? Here we go. Okay. Receiving stats. Here is the receiving stats, and we're got drops highlighted, so it's top of the league at drops. The most drops in the league last year was 13 from Jerry Jeudy. This is according to Fox Sports. So these numbers could be a little bit off. Other people could change stuff. But the most drops in the league last year was 13 by Jerry Jeudy. So no one even had 15. We can scroll down. Jaylen Waddle's at 11. You're probably looking at this 15 game plays, 15 games started, and thinking that's it. But average right here, drop last season. This is 2024, by the way. NFL 2024 receiving stats up there. Jaylen Waddle had 8 drops last year. So yeah, very clearly, just wanted to put that to bed right there. No one even had 15 drops in the NFL last year. I'm not sure where we're even getting that from. Yeah, I'm gonna get to the DBs, Dundee, and I'm gonna give my guys that I think would be the key that would be super helpful if they stepped up. But yeah. Paul lost a few pounds. Yeah, I wonder if him losing I actually don't mind him losing a few pounds. Like I think if Paul, same with Kenneth Grant, if they're a little bit smaller than they were in college, like I don't mind that. They're already huge. And I don't think it's gonna like take away from like their power very much. Like I'd be sick of like, maybe gave them a little extra juice. Paul has a lot of juice. But I think, there was times last year he was just a little bit late to things, but I think that had more to do less with his athleticism and more to do with just him being, a rookie being late. Dog, I literally just showed you it. It's not 15 drops. You're on Fox Sports too? I literally just showed you. Here, I will now also, we will go to 2023. This is 2023 receiving stats. The most drops in 2023 was 13 from Puka Nacua. Tyreek was second with 12. This is the drop tab. We can scroll down. Let's see, where's Waddle? Waddle. I don't even see Waddle on here. Did I miss him? Waddle might not even be up here on this list. Yeah, Waddle's not even in the top 25 of drops, so that means he had less than 6, unless I'm just missing his name. Yeah, no Jaylen Waddle. At least according to that chart. I mean, the whole drop thing is completely overdone. Yeah. Hey, maybe that's what you're reading, but you're reading the wrong thing, Cap. I'm telling you, I'm on the right thing right now, and he did not have 15 drops. No one had 15 drops last year. Like, I'm telling you, like, if you either are reading it wrong or you're looking at the wrong thing. That doesn't show it. Okay. Yeah, we're wasting time because I can't trust anyone that thinks Waddle is overrated. I'm sorry. I can't. It's not there. Okay, so after Patrick Paul, one of the key people of stepping up and getting bigger. Are you looking at Google AI? Say it ain't so. But yeah, after Patrick Paul, who I do expect to have a pretty solid season, but if he gave you like a good to great season, that would be a huge help for the offensive line as a whole. Then there's the other players, like you want the guards to play better, which I think they will be. Don't have to talk about them. Austin Jackson is another one, but I think his is more about staying healthy because that is something big. Also, PFF gave Jaylen Waddle 6 drops last year, by the way. So Waddle, they had him at 6 drops. I'm looking at PFF. So it definitely ain't 15. Yeah. Don't listen to the Google AI overviews, bro. Those things they are wrong all the time. You got to go and click into the articles that actually keep track of that stuff. And, they'll be different. Like Fox Sports had him at 8. PFF had him at 6. But, I mean, they're not going to be off by, 7. The next player that the Dolphins need to step up. Now, this is one where I'm like, I don't think this will actually happen, but I had to put him in here because him stepping up would be hugely helpful to the Dolphins offense. And I put Julian Hill because Julian Hill was bad last season. Lots of penalties, and even his blocking consistency fell off from the first year. The Dolphins have desperately needed a wide tight end that can block pretty much since McDaniel's been here. And if you go back to the 2023 season, the Dolphins ran a lot of 21 personnel. 11 personnel was very effective for them. And in those situations, you would only have one tight end on the field. And that tight end was either Durham Smythe or Julian Hill. And Julian Hill actually had good blocks during that season, his rookie year. If he can play more towards his rookie season form, which I don't think is that crazy, to go back to how you played the first year. It kind of happened with Kohu. Kohu played really good his first year. His second year, he struggled. Then third year, he played more like his first year. So I think Julian Hill stepping up, I don't ever expect Julian Hill to step up and be anything great. But if he can step up and just be a little more reliable, like if Julian Hill and Patrick Paul step up and be more reliable, that would be so helpful to the offensive outlook, especially the running game. And I think if the running game's opened up, that opens up the entire offense. It opens up the play action. It forces teams to play less too high because teams were able to play too high against us and we couldn't run the ball last year, which absolutely sucked. Yeah. I thought you were going Cam Smith. No, we're still on the offense, but Julian Hill, that would be a huge key player for them to have at least something from him because last year they got nothing from Julian Hill. It was mostly negative, especially the start of the year because he had a lot of penalties. Like he had a lot of holding calls. Some of them were kind of lame, but they were still holding calls. And then after that, he wasn't giving a lot of high level blocks because in his rookie year, at least when he was doing the positive stuff, his blocks were high level because Julian Hill plays with a lot of aggressiveness. He can play with some power, but that is a reason he does get a lot of the holding calls because he plays out of control. So I think that is a key player that if they get more from him, that'll be a huge help because I don't expect anything from him as a receiver. I actually think giving him the ball is a detriment to the team because, it always feels like he's going to fumble with the ball in his hands. Eric Smith did a good job in breakdown Hill, showing some, yeah. To be fair, not all the penalties were on Hill, but yeah. So three different outlets have three different drop numbers. I think it's more you not trusting the internet than trusting us. But Cat for Life, you are trusting your internet, right? Like, what are you talking about? That logically makes zero sense. You're trusting the one that has him at 15, but you're not trusting all the other ones that have him at 8 or less? Like, what? How does that logically make any sense? Okay, I gotta stop responding to that. Let's get back to the thing that matters. I've been arguing too much with people on Twitter recently anyways, and I gotta stop. Because, some of the takes I see, they are rough. Next player. Player that I feel confident about, we talked about a little bit earlier, Jaylen Wright. I think Jaylen Wright stepping up is huge. I do think this also kind of plays into the offensive line just stepping up. I think the offensive line stepping up will allow Jaylen Wright and Devon Achane to have better running numbers. But I do think Jaylen Wright needs to step up in the sense of being able to read blocks and outside zone, because it's just something he didn't do in college at all. So he is very new to it in year one. And I know some people think like Ollie Gordon's going to be the running back too. I've had, conversations with some of you guys, that think Ollie Gordon will be the running back too. I don't see that happening. I still think Jaylen Wright is clearly your next option after Achane. Like, he's so talented. There's so much to like with his game. I really gotta make a video on him to point out some of the stuff. Actually, we'll show some quick college clips. But like in college, if you looked at him, it was a lot of inside zone and gap scheme stuff. And like, look at the bend he has in his lower half. His explosiveness is just different levels. And I think if the blocking matches that 2023 season, like he could have how Mostert played that year. He could have a Mostert-like season, I think, for Miami. That's the type of talent I think he has. And Mostert went crazy that year. And then, Achane will still get a lot of work as well. And he will get used more as a receiver. But yeah. Jaylen Wright, I think, is a huge key player to stepping up. And I think, to me, if Jaylen Wright steps up, that also means the O-line stepped up, which is a big reason I'm kind of highlighting Jaylen Wright, because it also means the whole O-line stepped up as a whole. And you saw the flashes last year with Wright from him. Also, I think, him being used more as a receiver would be super nice. Wait, I read the message before you deleted it, so you you just proved that we were right the whole time, and then you deleted it because it said 8 dropped passes. That's funny. You realized you finally read it and said in 15 games. Yeah. And you invested a decent pick in Wright. Yeah, that's another reason I'm like, Jaylen Wright is going to get a lot of work. I know people love Ollie Gordon. I think Ollie Gordon will see some work for sure. But Ollie Gordon is another player that also might take a little bit of time, similar to Jaylen Wright last year, acclimating to the different type of system, because Ollie Gordon also not known for being his, Ollie Gordon running outside zone was not really his go-to. He was more, he can run out, he ran a little bit of outside zone, more than Wright did in college, but he was also, I think, more comfortable running gap scheme, inside zone. I think we're going to see a pretty big jump. Jaylen Wright, I think out of all of the rookies from last year, I think Jaylen Wright has the best chance of making the biggest jump, per se. Because I think Chop has already reached a pretty high level. I don't think he's going to make a crazy high jump because he's already at a high level. I think Patrick Paul will slowly raise up. I think he's going to be on a slower trajectory up. But he's another one I expect improvement from. But I think Jaylen Wright has that from his physical and athletic profile that he is going to go crazy. Yeah. Yeah, a 3-headed monster would be cool. I just don't know I just feel like we've talked about that a lot, Troll, and it's just it's really hard to pull off a 3-headed monster in the NFL. I just feel like teams stick with the hot hand. They stick with the guys they're comfortable in. It's hard to get 3 guys really going in an NFL game. But I wouldn't mind if Ollie Gordon's role is hey, third down and short, bring him in. Or pass protection, bring Ollie Gordon in. Because I do think he's pretty good at those situations. So that's how I would kind of get him involved. Okay. Who is next? Now we're into the defense. Okay, so the offense didn't have that many players, obviously. I mean, there's some healthy guys. Obviously, like, there's the obvious ones, like Tua, Austin Jackson. There's also, like, Melifonwu, the guards, because, you know, like, James Daniels, you want him to come back healthy. To me, those guys, obviously, you would like them to step up, but they're mostly about, their stepping up is more about staying healthy. I think if they stay healthy, they will make an impact. They will do their jobs. Tua, obviously, like, he's your quarterback. You want your quarterback to be playing at a high level every year. I think his is more about the health factor. So I'm not going to mention them. I was going more in specific players, just going strictly on play. And I think Patrick Paul, Julian Hill, and Jaylen Wright are kind of the big names for me on offense, stepping up and taking like a big jump. Because I think if they take a big jump, that means a lot of other people are taking a big jump. Yeah, I didn't say third wide receiver, Elwood. I thought about talking about the receivers because I know we could even talk about like Tyreek and Waddle, because Tyreek and Waddle had a down year statistically. But the reason I didn't mention them is because I think if like the players I talked about stepping up, like the O-line steps up, your running game's better, Tyreek and Waddle will automatically be better statistically. I think last year they had a down year statistically because of a lot of outside factors. There are times where they need to play better, but they're both still very good players that I think will step up. And then the third receiver, like you're talking about, that is important. But I think Malik and Nick Westbrook will do that, like, and will do a solid job at it. But I didn't think it was like the key to the offense. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, those are definitely, I have those are like honorable mentions for sure. Plus Achane is like, Achane and if Jonnu's here, like, you have a lot of like offensive weapons that can, as long as like the scheme's good and you're able to run the ball, I think a lot of those guys will feed. But now we go to the defense. Those were the keys, I think, on offense to like stepping up big time and helping out. But we'll start on the defensive front. I didn't do any on the defensive tackles because I think, we know we got from Sealer. All the other defensive tackles are rookies, and I'm expecting a lot from Grant, so there's not really like I'm looking at them to like step up, because I think, I'm going to get like a quality work out of them no matter what. But I will go to the edge spot. I think Bradley Chubb is a big key for the defense this season. You could also put Jalen Phillips in that discussion. It's just I think Jalen Phillips, I kind of know like Jalen Phillips is coming off 2 major injuries. I'm not sure he'll quite reach that, but I think the reason I put Chubb over Phillips in terms of like a key player needing to step up is that Chop and Phillips are more comfortable playing left defensive end. They've always looked at their best playing left side. Chubb looks more comfortable playing right side, so he's the one who has to be out there a lot. He didn't play at all last year, so he's like kind of rusty coming off of this. If you can get high level play from Chubb, I think that is huge for the defensive side of the ball. One final year out of him, because when Chubb was playing really well, because I've seen Phillips play at a high level, but sometimes when Phillips was playing at a high level, he was like the only one playing at high level on the defense. But once Chubb was playing at a high level during that 2023 season, the defense took a really big step up. So I think Chubb being out there and being able to play at that high level next to Chop on like opposite sides is a very important, especially when you look at the Dolphins secondary. They have to be able to get quick pressure with 4. And I think Chubb is kind of a big question mark for you right now because, he is a little bit older. He didn't play at all last season. He is someone that I'm definitely keeping an eye on in terms of key impact players. I hear NWI is not looking good. I think NWI is more of a game player than a practice player, But we'll see how it goes. It's still very early in the process. I don't put too much stock into OTAs, especially because, players can step up, new system. But I think Westbrook will be fine once you see some game players, because some some guys are really, because I think he's the guy that like excels in pads where he can use more of that physicality, make some tough plays. So I'll be more worried if he starts struggling with the pads on. Okay, Phillips arrived in my Uber. Jordan Phillips? Shout out Jordan Phillips. Yeah, we'll see. It's early. Phillips just needs to stay healthy. We've definitely gotten production out of Phillips, but he just needs to stay healthy. That's the biggest concern with Jaylen Phillips, because Jaylen Phillips was the best player on the Miami Dolphins defense in 2023 before he got injured. And I will die on that hill. Phillips was playing dominant level football. Unfortunate that he had to get hurt that season. And then next, we'll get to the linebackers. Obviously, we know what we have in Jordan Brooks. He's not a player we need to talk about. But I would say the second linebacker next to Brooks, this could be any of them. I don't care who it is. I think Dotson has the best chance of that. But I think getting a step up from any of them would be huge. I think Dotson and Britt are more likely. I think Willie Gay Jr. is more of a third linebacker. He's not a true off-ball in my opinion. I think Willie Gay is more of a guy that can play as like an overhang, a Sam. He's a guy you blitz off the edge. So he's not a guy I'm technically considering as my second off-ball guy. But I think if Dotson or KJ Britt really step up and play as like a solid second linebacker, that would be insanely important for the Dolphins defense. They haven't had two good linebackers playing at the same time, and I feel like forever. Brooks is really good. And Dotson played pretty good in a few games last year, but he also had that Packers game where he played awful. Like Dotson was really bad in that Packers game. But in all the other games, he played pretty damn good. He's a good cover guy. I think that's like the problem with your second linebacker unit, right? Your second linebacker guys is all of them have very specific skill sets. Dotson's at his best in coverage. Britt's at his best versus the run. Willie Gay's at his best blitzing. Like, and then all of them are like all the other things are kind of weaknesses for them. So if Dotson can play like at least average versus the run and play as good he was in coverage last year, man, that would be huge because the Dolphins have a secondary problem. So having your linebackers that can play well versus the run and then also drop into coverage and make a play, make life easier, in zone for them, that would be huge. Willie Gay rotational? Yeah, Willie Gay is definitely a rotational guy. Like I don't think you want Willie Gay out there playing as the second linebacker next to Jordan Brooks in like true off-ball fashion because he is not an instinctive off-ball guy. Like he will get lost in the run game. You want him as a guy that's like kind of near like on the line of scrimmage, setting the edge, playing as an overhang. You want to blitz him, play him as the Sam. He can be an off-ball guy in certain situations, but if he is your off-ball, you want to make his job very easy. You want him like be keyed onto one guy, go have him play man-to-man versus the running back. He can do that. He's got the athleticism for that. But yeah. Is Pharaoh as slow as they say? Pharaoh Brown? Probably. I don't know what they're saying, but he is quite slow. He's another guy, like you could put him in the Julian Hill stepping up discussion too. If one of them can just be like a quality wire for you, that'd be good. But I think the second linebacker stepping up and being like a good player is huge. I could see them being average players like for you because I think Dotson's good in coverage, but his run game ability brings him down to average. KJ Britt's a good run defender, but his coverage ability brings him down to average or below average. Willie Gay's instincts bring him down to average or below average. So I think if you can get a step up from one of them, that would be really, really nice. And I think, Dotson, I think has the best chance because you saw the flashes in this system last year. But you also saw the game where like a team that runs a good system is run first, like the Packers. They can take advantage of what Dotson does. Just want to see what Conyers has. Conyers, I've heard Tanner Connors had a good OTAs, but that's another one where like you want to see Tanner Connor with pads on because he's a super good athlete. I think he's someone that can excel. And if they traded Jonnu, that would give Tanner Connor probably a chance, but he's the same with Conyers though. We put Chop off the edge or stand up. I mean, either way, he's gonna be sound playing off the edge. Whether he's standing up or hand in the dirt, he'll do both. I do think he's more comfortable with his hand in the dirt, though. And then we get to the secondary. You could name any player in the secondary that needs to step up, and I would believe you, right? Like anyone stepping up in the secondary, I think is huge. But I think the players that we'll start with corner. I think the players that make the most sense for me stepping up one, I would probably throw Cam Smith in there. I'm going to say Cam Smith is more of an honorable mention. If he stepped up, that'd be great. I just don't think that's going to happen, so I'm going to not name Cam Smith as much. But I think the corners if they stepped up, that would be the biggest help, would actually be Jason Marshall Jr. and Ethan Bonner. Because I think they're the best two athletes of the group. It'd be great if Storm Duck stepped up. I think Storm Duck would be a great step-up person as well, because I think he's also a good athlete. Whether it's, BJ Adams, Isaiah Johnson, that'd be cool too, big, physical, strong corners. But the reason I put Marshall and Bonner is because they both have good size, but they're both really good athletes. And I think if you have really good athletes on the outside that are, playing at a decent level, that would be the most helpful to Miami. So I think Marshall and Bonner would be the kind of what I'm looking for. Storm Duck could also be thrown in there. Cam Smith could be, you could say any corner, I wouldn't mind. But Marshall's also a rookie, and I think you probably get the most value out of that too, because you would feel good. If Marshall stepped up, I think that would be the biggest help, because it's like, that would also help your future outlook. Because if the other guy stepped up, you might be a little concerned it's a one-off, but if it's Marshall's rookie year, it'd be like, oh yeah, I feel really, really confident about that guy. Yeah. Melifonwu, we'll get to the safeties. He's someone I didn't put because he's in my injury section. Because I think if Melifonwu stays healthy, he will be one of he'll be a solid starting safety for you. I actually do think he's not a player I'm worried about in terms of actual play. I think he'll be solid if he plays. It's just he's never played a full season. But yeah, those I think would be the most helpful corners. Cam Smith stepping up would be great, but also he's going to be towards the end of his rookie contract. So if he stepped up now, then you would have to pay him. So I think, going with the younger guys makes more sense to me. Storm Duck also thrown in there, I think, with Bonner. I think you could change Bonner or Storm Duck. It's interchangeable at this point. And then for safeties, any of them as well. We talked about Melifonwu, Ashton Davis stepping up with great. I think the key player stepping up that would be the most helpful for the short term and the long term would be Patrick Morris. Also Dante Trader as well, but I'm gonna say McMorris first because Trader's still a rookie. But McMorris, I think stepping up would be huge because it would make you feel better about the future of your safety position, because then you'd be like, oh, we have a starting safety for next year because now we don't have to go find two more. Also, I think McMorris would bring exactly what you need to the safety table, because you need some guys out there that are willing to tackle. They are a consistent tackler, because that's something that Morris kind of thrives in, is making tackles. The Dolphins safeties could not tackle last year. They were missing tackles left and right. I think having McMorris and Melifonwu out there, if those were your two, would be a pretty fun duo, because Melifonwu can do a lot of the matchup stuff in the slot. You wouldn't necessarily have a deep single high guy. I guess that would leave McMorris as a single high guy. But it's not it's not the most important thing in the world anyways. But he can do the split field stuff, come downhill, play top down. He can play in the box as well. You have Melifonwu match up on a tight end. But I think McMorris and Trader stepping up would be the most helpful to the team, because it would help short term and long term. Because if Ashton Davis steps up, it helps short term, but it probably doesn't help you too much long term. Same thing with Elijah Campbell as well. DB the weakest position group right now? Yeah, if we wanted to grade the position groups, DB would have to be last. I would probably put corner last, then safety above it, because I think the safety group is going to be at least a little bit better this year than it was last year, while the corner group's going to fall off. But also, I think corner and safety, it's pretty neck and neck, but DB in general is at the bottom. Then after that is probably, I got to think about this. What's the weakest position group right now after the secondary? It's not edge. It's not D-tackle. It's probably not linebacker. Jordan Brooks is going to save that group. It could be tight end, because while Jonnu Smith is a good player, he is a very one-dimensional player. He's very good in the receiving game, but he doesn't bring you anything as a blocker. While Jordan Brooks can make plays in pretty much every situation, so that would give him the advantage there. It's not receiver. It's not running back. And I don't think it's O-line either. I think O-line would have the step up over tight end. like maybe you could argue tackles because maybe Jonnu's better than your tackles. I don't know. It's probably tight end, I would say, after that, and then probably O-line. Because I'm looking at it by group. I'm not going to specific position. Do you hear the Dolphins reporter said that could look like compared to other DBs? I didn't hear that, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I mean, it's like Jonnu's carrying the tight end group. Jordan Brooks is carrying the linebacker group, and then there's O-line, and like the O-line, I think starter wise, I feel better about the starters as a whole than I would about the tight ends that play a lot as a whole, and the linebackers as a whole. I think if you get to your O-lineman, like if you start to lose some O-linemen, then I would feel really bad about the O-line group. But I think as a whole, the O-line group is more than serviceable right now, as the 5 starters at least. But I think tight end, it's like Julian Hill and Pharaoh Brown are going to play a lot. And those players are players I'm very concerned with. Like, I think, they can do a specific job, but the whole tight ends, they're just, all of them are one-dimensional right now. QB also, yeah. But the thing with QB is, like, you only have one on the field at a time, and I feel much more confident with Tua on the field than I do with, the tight ends on the field. Then, like, but yeah. Do. No, cap for life. I do not, because he has more than 36 wins. But also, I don't care about those stats. Those don't mean anything to me. Plus, the whole fumble thing is misleading. But honestly, I would say probably the tight end group. Jonnu is a stud at receiving and does a lot of good things, but he brings literally 0 as a blocker, and all the other tight ends around him are just not good. In Tua's case, the unit matters. They will all play. Sure, but then I have to consider the other groups behind, like, the tackles, because, like, Austin Jackson has gotten hurt more than Tua, and then now if I'm considering that, then I'm probably also considering the tackle group being worse, Then you got to do that with every group, and the Dolphins have a lot of injury issues everywhere, so, Do. Okay. Just to show you why that stat is pointless, Patrick Mahomes has 38 career fumbles, 74 interceptions, and 89 wins. So he also has more career turnovers than wins. That's the case for almost everyone. That's why I don't care about what that stat says, to be honest. And also the fumbles thing is misleading because you're counting a miss snap, like you're counting like a running. Sometimes QBs get, tallied with fumbles on a bad snap by the center, or if the running back doesn't take the handoff right, that counts as a fumble from the QB. That's why, like, the QB fumble stats, like how many of those were actually lost, He does have to be fair, Tua does have more fumbles than I would like, but the whole fumbling thing gets so overgassed because not all of them are on quarterbacks, That's why I'm like, you got to watch film at the same time. Final countdown, yeah. I'm gonna get copyrighted for me humming Final Countdown. Imagine. Patrick Mahomes has rings. That's my point, Cat for Life. My point is that doesn't matter. You have more turnovers than wins. What's the point of bringing up that stats if you can have rings while getting that, you know? That's the point of what I'm bringing up. You think we end up trading Johnny when it's all said and done? Personally, no. I don't think it happens, but it's definitely still a possibility. But yeah. Tackle group is very specific. Yeah. Yeah, don't forget to like the stream. Did I mention every player I wanted to? Let's throw some other... those were all like the main ones. I had some honorable mentions we can throw in there. Grayson Murphy / Mo Kamara. I think one of them stepping up was hugely helpful, especially for the future. We talked about that before. All the other corners, Storm Doug, BJ Adams. I think Jordan Phillips, playing up is big. Alec Ingold, I think, is a sleeper one. Alec Ingold steps up. That actually could be a huge help. Keon Smith, swing tackle. Him stepping up, I think, would help a lot because he's going to play at some point if he's your swing tackle. Larry Borum, Kader Kohuk. Since Kader Kohuk is going to be your best corner, him stepping up and being better would be huge too. KJ Britt, yeah. Film don't fix fumbles. No, I'm telling you that not every fumble that is like attributed to Tua is his fault. You know what I'm saying? Like if you watch the film, you'll see that. That's why reading stats like that is misleading. That's why pretty much every stat you pointed in here has been either just wrong, like the Jaylen Waddle stuff was straight up just wrong, or it's misleading just by only pointing the stats. Because, not all the interceptions are created, not all the, fumbles are created equal, Missing Liam Eichenberg. We're going to forget about Liam, We're going to ignore Liam. The punter, honestly, good shout, Elwood. Whoever the punter is stepping up. The secondary will be only as good as the pass rush. Well, I think the pass rush will be quite good, which is going to help out the secondary a ton. That's why I think there will be games the secondary gets exposed. For sure. For sure it gets exposed. But I think, it won't be as... I don't think the secondary will be as big of a problem as maybe people think because of how the scheme's going to be. I think the Dolphins are going to do a lot of that coverage pre to post snap rotation and then, bring their different types of 4-man pass rushes up front with different stunts. They're more going to I think that's the thing is when the Dolphins were at their best defensively last year is when they confused the QB just long enough with their pre to post snap coverage rotations. So you don't need DBs out there. You just need DBs out there that know what they're doing in the system. They don't need to be super high level players in terms of oh, I can cover this guy for this long. That's why I think, there will be games where the secondary will be completely fine because of how well they're playing up front and how well the game plan is. But then there will be games they do get exposed against good offenses that can, pass protect for long enough. Do you think we take CB first round next year? I heard we might take Asante Samuel since his injury is gone. I mean, it's possible. There's some good corners next year. I've started watching some of the 2026 guys. I know there's some good players. There's AJ Terrell's little brother, the Falcons corner. He's really good. I think his name's Avion Terrell. Very good player. Jermod McCoy from Tennessee. He's another guy that I think is a first round corner. Really good player. But I don't know. I think it's way too early to actually guess what they're going to take next year. So much can change, in a season. But I do think corner will be high on the priority list. Ohio State safety. Oh yeah, Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs is going to be he should be a top 5 pick next year. That's how good Caleb Downs is. You know what? Next year's class is actually pretty good. The linebacker group. The linebacker group next year is pretty good. I would love to come away with a stud linebacker next year to pair up with with Jordan Brooks. Yeah, QB will be interesting. There's a lot of names QB wise, but I don't know if there's like anyone who stands out yet in my eyes. I think there's a lot of guys that are very good, but they all like need like one specific thing they need to improve on, and if they don't improve upon that, I wouldn't love them. So they all got this year to improve, but there is a lot of names. So I think, there will be definitely guys that step up and stand out in the quarterback class. And we'll see how that rolls around. Oh yeah, I'm seeing them. They're talking about Nick Westbrook-Akine right now. Oh, but that was an Omar Kelly report, so I would take that with a grain of salt, honestly. No offense. Yeah, but any final questions? Because I think that was everything I wanted to go over. Pretty solid stuff. Had to go over that Tua play, had to go over the Waddle stuff, had to go over, No offense to the people that love Jarvis Landry, but he was overrated as a Dolphin. He was a dog, though. Give him credit where credit is due. Ryder's next on the chopping block. No, Omar Kelly's not reputable. I think Omar's entertaining. He does some good stuff, but I've seen. I don't really trust his personally. I don't trust his evaluation at training camps because I've seen him be wrong too many times. Like the one time he said Julian Hill was going to be a stud. One time he said Devon Achane was like Savon Ahmed. He called Malik Washington just a guy last year. So to me, he focuses too much on practice and not enough on the film. But yeah, I don't have a lot of trust in Omar Kelly's breakdowns. But that's just my opinion. People can believe him or not. I don't really care. I'm not really too focused on other people's opinions and stuff. Do my own work. Will be our starting D-line. I think Sealer and Kenneth Graham will be like the two starters. If you're in base and you have 3 D tackles out there, I'm guessing it will be Benito Jones in the beginning, and then I think Jordan Phillips will take over eventually. And then I'm gonna guess. I think. I'm trying to think who will be your starter. I think all 3 edges will play similar amounts of snaps. I think you might see Chubb and Chop as the first 2 on the field because maybe Phillips is still working back, maybe from the injury because he's the most clean off of it. But I wouldn't be surprised if Phillips and Chubb end up being the starters off the edge. But Chop will play plenty of snaps. Yeah. Oof, what a day. Sometimes, man. I'll never understand it. Yeah. Any final questions before I get out of here? On. I'm like, okay. Sorry, I was just starting to go. I was just like Googling names of all the top QBs of like career wins and career turnovers, and like everyone I'm going through has like more turnovers than wins. Josh Allen has a lot more turnovers than wins. That's just like the nature of that position. That's just how it goes. Ooh, let's see Lamar. Lamar might be the only one that I could see beating it. 74. Because I don't think Lamar turns it over a lot. Ooh, Lamar was close though. He had 75 turnovers to 74 wins. Close. Okay, yeah. Hit the like button. Appreciate y'all.